You all set?
Yes.
Okay, no problem.
Of course.
I have 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask you to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. In accordance with requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel. Is there any public comment from the board?
Yes, I do have a public comment. The Board of Selectmen has chosen to avoid any meaningful discussion on the hiring of an HR director, assistant town manager. My comments tonight express my continued concern for the creation of this $60,000 per year part-time management position with full benefits, which the town manager admitted to the FinCom when asked directly, won't save any money, but will create greater efficiencies. When town manager Speidel wanted to add a new management position, she presented a 5-page justification and held a public hearing. I have heard that it is the opinion of some this is not required. However, it's simply the right thing to do. Before undertaking a new hire, there should be a more global look and planning process in play. The town has had, for several years now, a 10-year plan to annually add staff to police and fire. That's a plan. There hasn't been a full discussion, there is no long-term staffing plan, and both of these need to occur before new positions are created. As part of the HR function, per the town manager, duties would include work with all department heads on hiring, disciplining, and termination of employees, research and create competitive compensation system to retain qualified individuals, employee recruitment, assist in interviewing and selection of candidates. Isn't that employee recruitment? Investigate, mediate, and resolve personnel problems. Grievance procedure administration. Investigate, mediate, and resolve personnel problems. Develop procedures and oversee orientation for new employees. When I look at this list, I have to wonder, how many employees are recruited, hired, oriented, fired annually in Lunenburg? How many employees leave positions in Lunenburg to seek work elsewhere on an annual basis? Are we having trouble currently retaining employees outside of DPW? What problem are we trying to solve? How many personnel problems are there? In my 4 years on the BOS, I haven't been officially made aware of any. As part of the assistant town manager piece of this new job, duties would include assist with procurement and putting bid packages together. I believe the town manager is the chief procurement officer, and that's her job. What's she gonna do if she gives this one away too? And other special project as assigned. That doesn't even read as a well thought out plan. In addition, the town manager added to this budget a parks director, less than 20 hours a week, no more than 1,040 hours a year, based on the absence of any paid staff to perform administrative functions and programming needs of the Parks Commission, and to appoint candidates. What candidates? Right now, the high school athletic director schedules all school fields all year long, as well as Marshall Park for the high school baseball team. And he keeps all those fields ready for play. I think that's a big part of the park and rec issues in our town, and they're being handled by the school. Maybe both of these positions will prove, after thoughtful discussion, to be just what Lunenburg needs to succeed. However, we don't know yet because we have no global plan to look at future hires and determine what positions need to be created. We haven't yet had the important discussion on what positions will best help us achieve our goals and move Lunenburg forward. It's time to hit reset, not recess, and begin this discussion in earnest. And I repeat, when we had the Board of Selectmen discussion on the budget in November, the town manager said there were no new hires. In February, at the Finance Committee, she presented a budget with 2 new hires. It's just premature, and it has not been thought out. Thank you.
Okay, I also had a board comment tonight, I think it was more generic, but it's in line with the comment that Selectman Luck just made, and it's that as we've been questioning the budget and or questioning the staff positions, that's come with a lot of criticism that we've questioned the town manager. And so my comment was much more generic in the sense of what is democracy and what's our sort of purpose in participating. And I feel like whether it's a citizen or whether it's us as the BOS, in order to have a healthy democracy or the concept of we the people, then the only way to really engage is either by giving input or by asking a question. And I look at asking questions as leading to thoughtfulness. And when you are having thoughts on something, you think of solutions or ideas. So it's ironic because we're being questioned for questioning, but I welcome that as well, because I think that's all part of the necessary friction in government, is not just to accept something that's laid out before you like a budget, but to actually question it. And how do you give input and how do you improve it? As far as the assistant town manager position sort of coming out of nowhere, that was the primary question, is where did we see a need for this? And I think the total is $82,800 when you add in the total cost of the position. And there's so many needs, I think it's okay to question, is this where we want to put that money? Or would the schools want it? Or would public safety want it? I think questioning is healthy, and when it's when people are asking you not to question or not to use your voice, I really see there a sense of control. And whenever there's control in government, you're looking at something that's unhealthy, in my opinion. And so I welcome questioning. Question me. We should question each other. And most importantly, we're dealing with, millions of dollars. We should question how we spend it. And I mean, I know there was a letter to the editor that was specifically calling out the questioning of the town manager. She's hired to run the town. We absolutely, when she presents a budget, I think are obligated to ask questions. And so that was my comment, but I feel like you put a lot of detail into it. But I just feel disappointed where somebody tries to make questioning something negative, where it's really a healthy part of why we're here.
Thank you.
I wasn't planning on speaking, but I feel the need to at least respond to the 2 public comments. I believe what's questionable is the role of the Board of Selectmen in this process. We clearly have a responsibility for the budget as a total, and I believe it is not only our right but our obligation to question the budget at a macro level. I think that when we choose to get into details and try to assume what gets done within the operation of the town management, we tend to make generalizations. I was in the HR field for 33 years, and it consistently is underappreciated in terms of the amount of work and responsibility and impact on efficient operation. I think one of the reasons we don't see more turnover, one of the reasons we do have a relatively well-run town, is because the town manager is doing a lot of HR work, and our senior managers are doing a lot of HR work, which is the ideal. But the fact that a professional HR person to be part of that process, I believe, is the decision of the organization and is part of a $30-something million budget. And when we question down to that level of detail, I think we're not fulfilling our role as a policy-making board. If this is an agenda item, we can make an agenda item. We can continue to talk about the budget as we have been all along. I just think it's it's a little off base tonight. Is there any public comment from the public? Please.
Dave Passios, 56 Whiting Street. First of all, I wasn't going to make comment on the board comment, but I also feel compelled to state, as I have before, that I think this board is kicking the can down the road and will be known as the board that did kick many cans down the road this year because, oh, gee, we're not quite sure. Oh, gee, we don't have enough information. Make a decision. Let your town manager put forward a budget as she's required to do so, and let the town meeting decide whether they want the positions or not. You're welcome to your opinions, and I would never stop you from versing your opinions, but I disagree. One other item I'd like to just briefly touch on that's actually on your agenda this evening. Just would appreciate some explanation as to let's see, the Land Acquisition Committee appointments during your appointment hearings today. There's some question out in the public as to what this committee's charged with, who came up with the format and the members to be appointed to this committee, and there was an agenda item a couple of selectmen's meetings ago. Now, I might have missed the brief explanation, but it was supposedly to clarify the positions or something to that effect, and honestly, I may have missed the comments, but if you could please comment on that before you make the appointments, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Please.
Tom Alonso, 284 Lancaster Avenue. Now for something completely different. I want to thank somebody. I'm here before the board and the community as a member of the board of directors of the Boys and Girls Club, and I want to give everybody, on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club board and the employees and the kids it serves and the families it serves, a heartfelt thank you to everybody who made last Friday's Are You Smarter Than Our Sixth Graders a huge success. A lot of work goes into planning that, and it's our biggest fundraiser of the year. It's the last one of the fiscal year, and we had set an aggressive target for ourselves of $20,000, and I'm very pleased to report that with all the people in town locally, a lot of friends of the club outside of town, a lot of businesses, that we were able to raise just shy of $22,000 for that. So it was an excellent success. I want to thank the school committee and the school department for allowing us access to the auditorium again. We had a great crowd. We had 16 full teams, a lot of fun night. And it was recorded by PAC, so I want to thank them. And they are, again, there was a lot of breaks, but the team's coming up, so they're editing that to tighten it up. And once we have that, it will be, I'm sure PAC will post it on Facebook and on their website. And the Boys and Girls Club will do the same, so anybody who wasn't there could see it. And again, we couldn't have been more pleased with the way it turned out, and it really shows just what a great supportive community Lunenburg really is. So thank you to everyone.
Congratulations.
And Alex Trebek has nothing on you, Tom.
Maybe in 3 years.
Any other public comment from the public? Okay. Let's get into our agenda. Our first appointment this evening is an amendment to the alcohol license number 00016-PK0636, which is a change of officers for Victory Distribution, LLC, doing business as Hannaford Supermarket and Pharmacy, number 8388 on 333 Mass Ave. How are you this evening?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Jennifer Moore, store manager, Hannaford Supermarkets.
Okay, and what are we doing?
Good question. Because no one told me anything. Again, they just told me to be here.
Okay. You want me to tell you?
Yes, please.
Okay. Apparently, we are adding a secretary, Nicole DeVoe Lewis,
Okay.
from York Beach, Maine, is a secretary of the corporation, and because of that change, we're adding her to your license, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. All right.
I actually have a question.
Sure.
Before we, I was in Hannaford's and I was buying a bottle of wine and I went through the auto check and nobody checked.
So
I
they
don't
are,
understand how that works.
yeah, so they do have a handheld unit. So basically, with anyone that comes through and buys alcohol, if you look 45 years or under, they're supposed to card. On self-checkout with that handheld, they are able to, from the service center, they can see self-checkout, so they can override it right at the register. At that point, if they look 45 or under, then they're required to go over and ask for an ID.
So someone spends all of their time just looking at that checkout? That's
They
their
have,
job?
yeah, they have, yes. Yep,
Wow.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments?
We amend the alcohol license for Victory Distributors LLC as stated in the application.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. This will be ready for you at the office tomorrow.
Okay, thank you so much.
Like an honest person. Okay, our next hearing is for Bicycles Battling Cancer fundraiser on Sunday, June 2nd. Is Mark Walter here? Sir.
Good evening.
evening.
So I'm Mark Walter with Bicycles Battling Cancer. I'm a resident of Westwood, Massachusetts, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the American Cancer Society and this ride, which is going on to its 11th year. This year's event is June 9th on a Sunday, and this fundraiser charity ride features multiple ride distances, and this includes coming through Lunenburg. So I'm here to ask for the board's permission and to allow the ride to come through. It's only about a 2-mile stretch. It comes up Lunenburg Road, turns right onto Leominster Shirley, and away they go. And I have contacted the police chief, who has basically given his approval, and hopefully I'll have your approval as well.
Any questions?
No, we've never had any issues with that ride, right? So you ran in the Boston Marathon when it was 97 degrees, huh?
No, I just got the jacket. Oh. Yeah, it's funny. I put it on. I was wondering if that would come, but I saw it, and anyway, it was the marathon. Yeah, it was topical, but no, I did not. Not that year.
So I would make a motion that we approve or endorse or support the Bicycles Battling Cancer fundraiser coming through Lunenburg.
Second?
Any further discussion?
Good
Well,
luck.
It's a nice day.
Yeah, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay, good luck.
Thank you so much.
And it's our 7:15 appointment is with the chairman of the Senior Work-Off Committee. How are you this evening?
Thank you for the time. My name is Bob Hamill. I live at 10 Pleasant View Ave, and I am representing the Senior Tax Work-Off Committee. We had a meeting on March 27th, and we had a couple of guests. Heather was with us, the town manager, and also Phyllis Luck from your board was with us. And at that meeting, we discussed making some changes to the program, actually bringing it up to date. One of the items was the per-hour rate that the people are able to earn, and it was at 10, and Mass state minimum wage is 12. So we want to bring the minimum wage for the applicants for this up to $12. And we also want to increase the total abatement from $1,000 to $1,500, which is the Mass state allowance. And while we were doing that, we got on a roll, and we said, well, let's look at the gross usable income that you can have in order to qualify for this, and we also raised that, and that has gone from, let me see, We raised that from 50 for one person, 250 for a one-person household, and to 75,000 for a two-person household. And we went before the Board of Assessors, and they had no problem with it. They had enough money in the abatement to cover that, even if it was at a total number of workers. There is the number is 12, is a total at max. And that's from all the departments. They send a form in if they have a position available to the director of the senior center. And then we review the information, and if it's approved, then we assign them to a job. Right now, there's only 6 people that are actually working in this program.
Is the 12 cap a result of how much work we have or how many slots we can afford?
It's not so much afford. Any department head can send a request in. You know, if they have a job or they could use the help, then they would send that form in to the director of the senior center, and then we would look at trying to fill it.
Okay.
And like I say, at present time, we only have 6 people active. And the town manager told us that even if we went to 12 total, which is the amount, the total amount of departments that would like a helper, it still wouldn't override the abatement they put aside for taxes.
And if somebody was interested in getting involved, who do they contact?
They go to the senior center. That's where they get the forms, fill them out, and then turn them right back into the senior center.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
Thank you for working at warp speed to get this thing passed. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
It's a great thing for us, our citizens. Minimum wage is the least we can do.
Can I get a motion?
So I'd make a motion that we amend the senior work-off program regulations as stated, increase to $12 an hour, $1,500 abatement, and then there was an increase in the...
There's an increase in the maximum that they can work off from 1,000 to 1,500, and then another increase in the gross, the max gross income
Okay.
that they can claim.
And so as stated, so.
I second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good, thank you for your hard work.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Okay, our first appointment of the evening is for the Americans with Disabilities Committee appointment. This is for a resident, and we have John Palumbo, 105 Fairview Road, with us for a one-year term.
Hi.
Mr. Palumbo,
Yes.
could you tell us who you are and why you want to do this?
Okay. Well, we moved to Lunenburg in 2016, and I've been actually working in special education for the last 17 years. And so I've worked a lot with kids on 504 plans, IEPs, various disabilities. And in 2017, my daughter was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. So, you know, that's been kind of a challenge for us. But when I was here the other day and I saw the posting, and then I also read it in the Ledger that they were looking for a large number of people. It wasn't just 1 or 2. I think it was 3 or 4 or something like that. So I thought that given my background and everything, that I'd apply.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from Mr. Palumbo?
Thank you for stepping forward.
Yes. And, you know, my daughter was diagnosed with type 1 when she was in the 3rd grade. So
Oh, okay. Yeah.
how old's your daughter?
She's 10 now. She's in 4th. So.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
just about
she's-
the same age.
Yeah, she's at the primary school
In Lunenburg?
when it happened. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. She's doing great now, though. She's fantastic kids.
Well, good luck with all of that.
All right. Thank you.
So I move we appoint John Palumbo to the Americans with Disabilities Committee with a term of 1 year.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and
Any
thank you
opposed?
for coming
Any
forward.
Thank you
opposed?
very much.
Just stop by the town clerk's office and get yourself sworn in and
All right.
go to the next meeting.
That's great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next appointment is to the Personnel Committee. It's an appointment for Michael Fiorentino at Riley Road for a 3-year term. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Would you tell us who you are and why you're here?
My name is Michael Fiorentino Jr. I've been a part-time resident of Lunenburg for 7 years, a full-time resident for 5 years. The part-time is because after living here for 4 years, I accepted the presidency of Lock Haven University in Pennsylvania and was living in Lock Haven for 7 years. I retired about 10 months ago and returned to Lunenburg. And I have a long history of active participation in the communities that I've lived in, volunteering in a variety of different ways, from social service agencies to serving on bank boards. I served 6 years in the Fitchburg School Committee, and I just believe it's really important, if you live in a community, to give back to the community and to provide whatever service you can. So with the extra time that I have now that I'm retired, I really do want to find a way to participate in the town of Lunenburg.
Great. Any questions or comments?
Thank you very much for stepping forward.
My pleasure.
I just
Really.
say be careful, you volunteer, you
Pardon?
end up, be careful, you volunteer, you end up on a lot of committees.
I've learned over the years from my professional work that the word no is not bad.
Yeah.
That sometimes you have to use it.
So, that's great.
I move we appoint Michael Fiorentino Jr. to a 3-year term on the Personnel Committee.
Second.
Any further discussion?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for
Thank you.
stepping
Look
Thank you
forward to
very much.
working with
Stop
you.
by the town clerk, get sworn in, and then you can go to their next
Thank
meeting.
you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for your service. Okay, now we have an appointment to the Land Acquisition Committee. This was a committee that was put together at the request of the Open Space Committee to review a potential acquisition of land that would become part of conservation land. The recommendation from the Open Space Committee was to put together a committee that would consist of 2 members of Open Space, one of whom would be by proxy the planning board member of the Open Space Committee, 1 member of the Conservation Commission itself, 1 member of the Finance Committee, and 1 member of the Board of Selectmen. The purpose of that group is to explore the possibilities of that land acquisition, that particular land acquisition. It would follow the model that was set when we reviewed the Lane property. No decisions would be made by that group, but they would bring a proposal forward that would ultimately go to town meeting. I guess it may come through the Board of Selectmen first, but it would go to town meeting for the town's approval. Right now, we're considering, we appointed Mrs. Luck to represent the Board of Selectmen. The Open Space Committee recommended, and I believe we approved, Paula Bertram and Brandon Kibbe. Terry Birchfield has volunteered for the Finance Committee, and we have one question in front of us. The Conservation Commission has proposed that they name 2 people with 1 vote. And the reason for that is some conflicts with their scheduling. They would like Rich Birch and Ken Jones from Conservation to constitute 1 member. They would keep each other posted, but they would in fact have one vote if they were ever in a deliberation, which is clearly up to us whether we want to discuss that or approve it or send it back for further modification.
Would we consider having a member at large, like a member from the community? Did they do that with the Lane?
That was not part of their recommendation.
And I
We
was
did
at the
discuss this
meeting
in
when
executive session, and
I was there.
right, I know.
And like, I don't remember us saying that the planning board member had to be the open space member and whatnot. It seems that we keep molding this group after the fact, and that to me seems unusual.
That was the recommendation of the Open Space Committee. They were the one that requested this committee be put together, and that was their recommendation right from the beginning. It was a little unclear, we kind of lost it in the shuffle, and I know the planning board had a discussion and actually appointed somebody other than the representative on open space. But I think they cleared that up among themselves.
If we have 1 member at large, that would be an even number, right?
Yeah.
Unless you had 2 people at large.
I just think if it's a acquisition and it involves, spending a lot of money from the town, and the town needs to approve it anyways, it would be nice to maybe have a couple more people involved. I mean, a lot of committees end up with members at large. I know the Charter Review Committee did for the same type of reason.
Maybe we could kick it back to the land acquisition, the open space, and see if they'd consider that.
And as far as having two people hold one position, I think that's really inconsistent and confusing and not a standard procedure. I'm not sure that I've really seen that happen in the time that I've been.
It is. I'm not sure if it's precedent setting, but it's the first time I've come across it.
Yeah, I'd feel better if we could allow them to have an alternate, but one of them should be the primary member, should they disagree, because that could be.
But that's kind of like an alternate, you know, my issue is if their meetings aren't televised or, you know, recorded, then the member who's not there is not going to get the whole flavor of the meeting.
Correct.
And so, you know, I know when I joined Charter Review so late in the game, man, I was pretty lost some of the time. So I think inconsistency can be an issue.
Yeah, and then also, I mean, even though it's just two members, so it wouldn't violate open meeting law, you don't want to create any scenario where you're encouraging a lot of discussion away from the meeting itself. And by having two members that are going to admittedly hyper-communicate so they can tag in and tag out, to me seems like it's having a lot of discussion outside of the actual meeting. And it doesn't violate anything, but it just seems abnormal.
Yeah, it kind of seems like you would like them to be able to choose one member who could be fully in.
Or appoint somebody, even if they were allowed to. If nobody from conservation would, then even if we don't have a member at large, I'm sure, just like with charter, the school committee had appointed me to represent the school committee, perhaps they can find somebody who can commit to the role.
I would really like somebody who's got the expertise of the Conservation Commission. That's one of the main factors.
Right.
I'm just concerned with slowing this process down. I think we've had it a couple of weeks now, and it you know, whatever they come up with clearly has to get reviewed by a lot of people, including the town.
Are these going to be open meetings?
Oh, yeah, they must be,
all meetings
right?
are open meetings.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we formed it in executive session, so that was why I asked the question, does this topic leave executive session and become just an
Yes.
open? Okay. Did they pick a time and place?
No, I think we have, they don't have all the members yet.
Okay.
You know, I see it both ways, really, so I could go either way with it. I can understand that schedules make it difficult for one person to be represented at every meeting, but there is a lot of expertise on conservation that would be valuable.
I mean, I would say it's my opinion. I don't know if it requires a motion, and I would say that they should just choose one person, and then everybody else can participate by just observing and having more than one person with the potential to come in and vote, and just seems like a different kind of setup than I've ever seen.
I just feel we're overcomplicating, and I don't have a problem with one vote.
The one person could call in too, right?
Yeah, they can do remote participation. I wonder why they anticipate they can't go and they don't even know when the meetings are. I would like to make a motion that the member of this Land Acquisition Committee that is representing each of these separate spaces is just held by one person with one vote.
Yeah, I'll second that for discussion.
Is there any discussion?
I mean, again, like I mentioned before, if they really think they need an alternate, I think we could give them an alternate position, but I agree that one person should at least hold the vote. the primary vote.
Yeah, I could see my way to that.
Okay, so we're not picking, we're going to have to go back to them and ask them who of the two they want to
I think
nominate.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the motion that it need to be one person, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 I'll abstain on that one. No, I won't, I'll say nay. But we'll go back and get them to have one. How about the Terry Birchfield for finance?
Sure.
I'd like to make a motion that we, would it be a nominate or approve Terry Birchfield to be the Finance Committee member of the Land Acquisition Committee.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Did that, Mr. Passios, did that conversation kind of clear up the question you had? I probably should have.
Yeah, if I had any major issue, I would have been up here sooner. Dave Passios, 56 Whiting Street. Yeah, that covers most of it. Dave did bring up the point that I brought up a few weeks ago as to questioning why there wasn't a member at large, at least one member at large on the board. And I hope the Open Space Committee will take that into consideration when they review this again. Other than that, I'm good with it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And did we aye the Terry?
No.
Or that's
No,
okay.
That was part of the discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And just to confirm the Paula and Brandon as the planning board and open space person, I believe we already did that, but in case we didn't, can we just confirm that we're okay with that one?
Move we approve Paula Bertram and Brandon Kibbe as the open space representatives to the Land Acquisition Committee.
I missed
And planning, right?
Excuse me?
Well, Paula's also planning, isn't she?
Well, she's the proxy member. The way it was described is two members of the Open Space Committee, one of whom is the planning board representative on open space.
Did they clear
Okay.
that up at planning since they already nominated someone
They
else?
cleared it up at open space.
Okay. Because planning had nominated
Yeah.
someone else. Did they have to unnominate or clear that up before we can nominate Paula? I guess before we nominate Paula, I just want to make sure that the planning board has nominated her and that they've cleared that up.
It seems they must have, or Marjorie
She
wouldn't
is the
send that
representative
notice,
for
right?
planning on open space. And the
Right, but
recommendation
we
was,
changed that.
no, the recommendation from the Open Space Committee was two members of open space, one of whom is the planning board proxy,
But
which
that,
makes it Paula, period.
so it was a meeting I missed, it was 2 weeks ago. The selectmen reconfigured or re-described what the configuration was. Prior to that, planning had already picked a member.
No,
So
at
I
that,
don't,
at that meeting, we said two members of the open space, one of whom is the planning board, and the planning board took that and made a nomination.
But what Katie's saying is they had
the planning,
previously nominated a
before
different
we
person.
reconfigured the
We
configuration.
didn't reconfigure anything, is my point.
Well, my point is, it looks like Marjorie sent to the BOS the two representatives from the planning board and open space,
Okay.
Paula and Bertram,
Okay.
and Brandon. So I'm sort of assuming
That they cleared it up
that
already.
it must have been cleared up, or
Okay.
she wouldn't have been able to do that. Does that make
Thank you.
sense?
Yep.
So do I have a second to that motion?
Second.
Now, is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so
And
the
did
one
we-
open item is I will send a note back to Conservation, tell them we want one member that we will confirm at our next meeting.
And if my memory is correct, the selectmen created this committee while we were in executive session.
Right.
So since it's our creation, I would like to make a motion that we add two members at large from the community to join the Land Acquisition Committee, because I think just like with the fuel tank issue, getting input and participation is always a positive and never a negative. And so my motion is to add two members at large from the community to this group, making it a seven-member Land
And
Acquisition Committee.
Would they be appointed by the BOS?
Sure. They maybe
I
can
can
fill
just-
out talent bank form or
Yeah,
something.
but I was just trying to figure out what
Yeah.
the process was. Okay, I'll second that.
Discussion?
I don't have a problem with that on face value. It's just, we were asked to put the committee together by the land use committee, or the open space committee under their recommendation, so I wouldn't want to do that without consulting them or running it by them first, myself.
I also would prefer we discuss it with land use and specifically the chairman, Mr. Gibby, who brought the recommendation to us. I think our time to have that discussion was at the meeting, and we didn't.
Now, I know open space wants these land acquisitions and whatnot, but really, it's a town issue and it's a citizen issue because they're expensive. They take land off tax rolls or they add land to conservation. And so I really like the work of open space and really value them, but I would say my opinion would be that citizen participation would be my goal, even if they said no.
But maybe what we should do is recommend to them that they do it and see what happens.
But because we made the committee, we actually have to do it either way.
Right.
But
So even if they said no, I'd still
they
say
could
yes.
say, well, it's a good idea, but we have these.
And it's not a
hesitations.
decision-making committee. It's a committee to review a piece of property and make recommendations, and then, yes, the town is going to decide what's going to happen with it.
So what would be the, what would be any negative circumstance of allowing 2 members at large? Because I know that
Just the
it's
slowing
been
down.
valuable on charter review.
Just the slowing down of
You
the
think
process
Mr.
while we find-
Archambault is now our chair, and he is the community member. So I think, and I know even though it wasn't official, I know they allowed Carl and different people to participate in the fuel tank discussion, and that turned out really positive. So I would just say, since we have my motion, that I see no negative outcome in allowing community participation in things like this.
Yeah, I agree. There's no downside.
And you can actually then, maybe we always need people on these boards and committees. These are little opportunities to give people a taste of participating without huge commitments.
Right.
So I'm excited
they'll
about
like
my
it.
motion, and fingers
Well,
crossed.
Again, I would really like to run it by them before we go and change a committee that somebody else recommended the makeup for. And there is a downside to it, because there's a limited time frame to these types of activities. You have to put a package together, and it's members from specific boards who bring the knowledge of those boards that we want on it. Yes, we want the public's input. Obviously, we want the public's input. Obviously, they're going to get their input because it's going to go before town meeting and public hearings and what have you. The Lane property was very advertised. That was a long process of socializing it to get the community's backing behind it. But the initial putting the presentation together, making the recommendations, adding bodies can slow down the process, and it can be a detriment.
There could be somebody who has a tremendous value that we're overlooking. I know I'm so impressed, like when the Robs Hill neighborhood came together and came in, there was like a professor of forestry from Michigan who was like a public commenter from the neighborhood, and you're like, he had like a doctorate in forestry or something. And so I think the assumption that members at large or community members wouldn't potentially be an asset, or we might not find somebody who would actually enhance the committee, I think is a little bit condescending towards citizens, assuming that there's somebody out there that wouldn't be a quality participant.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, I will get in touch with Mr. Gibby about the, I'll get in touch with Conservation about the conservation one. Minutes, we have no minutes. Warrants. Payroll in the amount of $800,194.94. And accounts payable in the amount of $170,333.09. Any action file issues? I just have one. Town manager reviews are due by the 30th of April. okay? And that only gives me a week to turn them around, so I really would appreciate getting them in. Committee reports?
Do you have any?
Nope, I don't have anything new.
I attended the annual meeting of the Congress and Lakes and Ponds Mass COLAP, which had a stormwater focus this year. I was very happy to see several residents from Hickory Hills in attendance to learn what they might do to combat the pollution of our lakes and streams via stormwater, as well as a representative from the Lunenburg Conservation Commission. It was a very worthwhile day.
You have anything? I will attend the MPO meeting tomorrow, and the upcoming tip will be reviewed, and the current version will hopefully be approved. There's no major projects that involve Lunenburg on this particular short-term tip. Old business. It was discovered at the last second that one of the warrant articles, actually one of the non-controversial, number 14 in the middle, was omitted just before I went to the printer. So I have another, it changed the pagination. They put it back in, it's going to the printer, but I have another warrant article for us to sign. We're going to get this right one of these
We're going to be
days.
good at this.
Oh, yeah.
What was Article 14, just out of pure
I
curiosity?
have no idea. Hold on, hold on.
I brought the, what do you call it?
I think it was 14, I don't know for
It
sure.
was 14.
If I'm signing something, and I just
solid
want to know what.
solid waste disposal. No, it was just missing from the version.
No,
and
you know,
it
I
was
just
put
want to
back.
know what was missing and what's
Solid
gone
waste,
back in.
solid waste disposal program enterprise fund.
That was my question, too.
Right? Yes, you can put that in. What's that? Whoops. Thank you.
It just kind of shows that with all those eyes going over this, it's still.
That's why it's nice to add extra people to stuff. Just kidding.
Alrighty. Our upcoming meeting schedule. We are in the process of trying to schedule the workshop for abutters, the library, the senior center, the Boys and Girls Club, etc. Right now, the leading contender is May 1st, but it hasn't been established yet. We do have a meeting scheduled for 8 a.m., and that'll be posted on the morning of the annual town meeting. That's fairly traditional that we have that in case there's any last-minute things we have to go over. Town meeting is May 4th at 9 o'clock at the high school. Our May meetings are the 7th, 14th, and 21st, and May 18th is the annual town election. Is there any public comment from the public? Any public comment from the board?
Sure, I just had a question. I guess I'll do it as a public comment, and run by Heather or Town Council. In the ones where we voted 2-2, it's listing it as deferred. I would think unless you would have to have 3 to say recommended. And somebody asked me this question, so I guess we'll run it by Town Council. So for example, like Article 21 is listed as deferred, but we voted 2-2. I think that would show up as not recommended because it would need 3 to be considered legally recommended.
No.
It would need 3 to be not recommended, too. It's a stalemate.
What we agreed to last week, now remember, this was on its way to the printer before last week's meeting. And I believe, I don't know for sure, that maybe even some of those pages are in the process and they're just looking for the last page. However, we agreed at last meeting while town council was here that on those where we voted 2-2, when asked, we will say there's no recommendation from the Board of Selectmen.
Well, I think the appropriate thing to do would be to say that it was voted 2-2.
No, what we're going to say is there's no recommendation from the Board of Selectmen. We had this discussion last week.
Don't they ask you at town meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, and we'll have to vote
And that's what we're
then.
going to say. There is no recommendation from the Board of Selectmen.
They won't ask us to vote at the time?
We already voted.
Well, then why wouldn't it just represent that it was 2-2? Then people would know.
There is no recommendation.
How do you?
So then
write-
why doesn't it say not recommended?
It doesn't say not recommended. Those we voted to
So
not
not
recommend.
recommended, not recommended, not recommended.
They were voted to not recommend.
So Article 21 was not recommended by us because it received a 2-2, but it says
No,
deferred.
it was no recommendation from us because it received 2-2.
Then it should say that, as do all the others, but it does
No,
not.
because they passed 3-1 at least to not recommend them. That article, we voted 2-2, so we don't have a recommendation.
Is there an
for.
alternative word to deferred? Because we technically didn't defer.
It's not deferred.
It says
It
deferred.
says deferred.
It was deferred when that was printed. What we will say at town meeting when asked is there is no recommendation.
I feel like the warrant should accurately reflect Board of Selectmen recommendations saying deferred. We did not defer it. Therefore, I feel that it's not accurate. It doesn't make a difference if I don't sign it, but I won't sign it because I believe in things. This is a highly important document, and these articles are very important to me, and Board of Selectmen recommendation was not to defer. We did actually handle it, and we should, I think we should represent the legal outcome of that meeting in the warrant that people receive. Deferred means we're going to deal with it later. We already dealt with it, and we're not representing it. Deferred is the wrong term to be in this warrant.
This was already discussed and voted on. If you choose not to sign it, don't sign it.
What was discussed and voted on, using the incorrect terminology?
No, using the correct terminology. We discussed it last week while the town council was here. And it's not an agenda item tonight. Do you have a public comment?
That was my public comment, is that I think the warrant should be more accurate.
Okay. Any other public comment? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
All right.
Good night, everybody.